Our keynote speaker today is Jen Sharp, another high-energy person. And as a native Kansan who has worked alongside rural water for 16 years, Jen can relate the lessons and experience of skydiving and 2 decades in business to the ever-changing water industry's current challenges. Listen and laugh as she outlines 3 techniques you could easily and immediately implement to improve your work and home life.
Your heart is pounding, and you're breathing really fast, and your palms are sweaty, and you have this softball-sized lump in your throat. That's fear, right? How many of you have ever experienced fear? Of course. We're all afraid of different things. How many of you are afraid of spiders? How many of you are afraid of snakes? Raise your hand if you're afraid of snakes. Raise your hand if you are afraid to raise your hand when someone asks you to raise your hand. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. But have you ever let fear stop you from doing something? It stopped you from getting what you wanted. Or have you ever had fear and you were on the edge of a decision and you went for it anyway? Well, I'm afraid of something. I am afraid of heights. I know, that's illogical. You just saw a video of me skydiving, which I've done for the last 25 years. I have 3,500 skydives. But fear is not always logical. I mean, I'm afraid of heights. Like, heights can't hurt you. It's the sudden stop at the end. Yeah. My son, when he was little, he said, "Mom, I'm afraid of the dark." Illogical. I said, "John, the dark can't hurt you. It's the monsters in the dark." So fears are not always logical. We should not let fear, especially illogical fear, drive our actions or cause us not to act. So unwittingly, I've become sort of an expert in fear because I'm a tandem instructor, which means I attach people to me, and we are sitting on the edge of an airplane, and we jump out together. I've taken over 1,000 people on their first jump, some of them about twice my size. So I would say that I have seen a lot of fear and have become somewhat of an expert on it. And I can tell you from those experiences that probably what really seems to be the best way to handle fear is to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. A lot of times in situations, we forget about ourselves. We're so busy focusing on everything that's being thrown to us, we forget about the power that we have actually on ourselves. If we focus on ourselves just for that moment, we can regain and kind of see what we have at our disposal. What am I made of? Do I have this? What can I do? That question, what can I do? What am I capable of? Is one of the reasons why I made my first jump ever. I didn't know if I had it in me. I wanted to see what I was capable of. I was afraid of my own performance if I wasn't going to be able to handle it. But I did it. And every time something came up in my life, in college when it was difficult, I remembered, hey, you know what? If I can jump out of an airplane, I can handle this. All right, I love to-do lists. In fact, maybe you're like me. The very first item on the to-do list is make to-do list, so I get to feel like I cross something off as soon as I'm done. How many of you do that? Yeah. But I also make a to-be list. A to-do list is something more about task-oriented, but I also make a to-be list. We're more likely to grow into the vision of who we want to be if we have a clear vision of what that is. He was a student skydiver. He didn't have very much experience. And one day he's jumping by himself, and he realizes that he is not going to make the airport. The wind's changed, he's too far away. It's okay though, we train people how to look for the areas where they want to land if they're not going to be able to make it back to the intended target. And he picked out this nice, huge open field, except it did have one tree in it, but it was really, really big. Yeah. You guessed it. You go where your eyes go. He landed in the tree. Because your focus is on the negative, that's what you bring into your life. We have one handle that gets rid of the parachute. That one goes away, and we get out our backup. There it is. Needs a little air. That's the main goal. Get a parachute above your head. It seems like that would be pretty obvious. However, before this little invention that I have on my rig, and a lot of skydivers do, it's a little computer that senses how fast you're falling and what altitude you are. So if you're falling at a certain rate below a particular altitude, it'll fire that reserve for you. Before that was invented, the leading cause of fatality in skydivers was not pulling any handles. Isn't that crazy? Like, how could you not pull the handle? You would think that that would be the only thing that you would have to worry about. The reason is because you get distracted. You get distracted with the things that you want to try to accomplish, and you're not focused on the main goal of getting a parachute above your head. Because, you know, sometimes maybe they're just trying to get together with another skydiver, or maybe they're trying to solve a problem. You know the adage about problem solving, right? If at first you don't succeed, if at first you don't succeed, don't try skydiving. Just kidding. But what is problem solving? If we look at what problem solving actually is, it is you take an entire situation and you're going to focus on one thing only, and it's not the thing that's working well, it's the thing that's not working well. And you put time, money, resources into trying to fix a problem. When I think that many, many, many problems are actually self-correcting problems. Self-correcting problems. This was in New Mexico, because of course this could not have happened in Kansas. There was a student named Nick who was going to go skydiving for the first time. Instead of doing a tandem, he was going to go with 2 instructors hanging on to him in free fall. So he had a lot of studying to do. And they practiced all day, and they deemed that Nick was ready. So they hop in the airplane, little Cessna 182, 2 instructors, a pilot, and Nick. They climb to altitude, and of course, there's that fear thing. Nick's getting a little nervous right now, maybe having second thoughts. The first instructor climbs out and tells Nick, come on out. Nick puts his hand on the strut and the step, climbs out. The second instructor is next to him too. So the plan is for Nick to go ready, set, go, and they all leave together with the instructors hanging on to him. But Nick instead went ready, set, go, and grabbed the strut instead of letting go. But unfortunately, the instructors left. So the pilot looks over, and he sees there's a student still on his airplane, and that was not part of the original plan. He radios down to the ground because they have ground support, and he says, we have a problem. But he's focused on his main goal. He's focused on his main goal of flying the airplane. He keeps flying the airplane, which is about 90 miles an hour, by the way. So you can imagine Nick's grip is slowly letting go here. He's back down to about one hand now. And the pilot's just waiting for somebody to tell him what to do while he focuses on flying the airplane. He's looking out at Nick, flying the airplane. Pretty soon, Nick's last finger goes. He radios to the ground. Problem solved. Most problems are self-correcting. Time to get uncomfortable. I want everyone to stand up and switch seats with your neighbor. Okay, I'm just kidding. Sit down. I wanted you to notice how you felt just then. Oh, that was uncomfortable. I don't know who's sitting next to me. I don't know that person. Wow, is she really going to make us do that? It's uncomfortable, fearful, you get upset. Can you imagine why we get stuck if at the mere suggestion of moving 30 inches to your right or to your left, that it elicits those kind of feelings? Can you imagine that? Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, but because of the difference of 0 miles an hour to 90 miles an hour in a split second, it ended up breaking my arm on the exit. I had a broken arm, but I didn't know it at the time. All I knew was, ow, that really hurt. Maybe it's okay. I need to get a parachute out eventually, but this is a world record. Maybe I can just try. We could just turn all the points and then I can open. So she turned for the first point, and I touched her leg, and my arm bent back in a way that really shouldn't have happened. And that hurt really bad, and I'm like, no, focus on your main goal. Get a parachute above your head. I have to get a parachute above your head. Now, can you guess which hand I need to pull my parachute open? Yes, it was my right hand. I did it. I got a parachute open with a broken arm. And I look up, and it's great, and then I'm thinking, oh yeah, I need to land this thing too. And you have to steer. My arm hurt really bad, so I really couldn't use it too well. If I needed to turn right, I ended up just going left all the way down to the ground. And I managed to land it safely. And the moral of that story is, 2 wrongs don't make a right, but 3 lefts do. So, the main goal, and it needs to be the right goal. The main right goal. Tenzing Sherpa and Sir Edmund Hillary were credited with being the first to summit Mount Everest. But they weren't the first to summit Mount Everest. They had 2 goals. The first was to get there. The second was to come down. That was the main goal, to get up and come back down. Focus on the main goal. When we were traveling to when we were right at base camp, I heard this noise, and it sounded like thunder. I was like, that's weird because the sky is blue. There's not a cloud in the sky. I asked our guide, what is that sound? And he said, an avalanche. I couldn't believe it. An avalanche, and there were many of them on that 3-hour tour. And so it just shows you that even the mountains are changing. It can be scary, but it's actually natural. And the more that we can get used to being uncomfortable, have techniques to be able to work with the changes that are around us. People leaving situations, people retiring and having to fill the gap. I will always be afraid of heights. I'm sure I will. But the absence of fear is not a prerequisite. In other words, nobody said you couldn't be afraid. I'm going to leave you with a poem in the spirit of Dr. Seuss by an Australian girl, Erin Hansen, 19-year-old girl, who talks about fear. There is freedom waiting for you on the breezes of the sky, and you ask, what if I fall? Oh, but what if you fly? Thank you.
That was great.